Are we going? Okay.
My bad.
All right. Give us a clap.
Damn.
There we
Ooh,
go.
that was
That's
a
what I'm
good
talking
one.
about.
Dog,
Yeah.
yeah.
Welcome to the Get the Goods podcast.
What episode?
We have an amazing group of people in here today.
Yes, sir.
We got Jamel Campbell-Gucci in here.
Every day.
The legend, the
Yep.
man,
That's
the
right.
myth,
Uh-huh.
the public figure,
35.
the chairman,
Episode
the general.
35. Yes, sir.
We got
Come on.
Madam Esquire,
Uh-huh.
El Capitan,
Yeah.
or El Capitan, depending on which side of the border you're from,
No, for sure. And
Okay.
pronouns.
and pronouns.
Yes, sir.
Any pronouns.
Long as it's said with respect.
How you gonna say my pronouns?
It's called an ad lib. I'm just ad lib.
Feel free to print a correction.
Yeah.
Your boy, Mike Floss, ain't here.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Just
Best
dropped
rapper in
something.
the world, in the
Yes,
solar
sir.
system, in the universe.
Yes, sir.
We got Jordan, the man behind the cam.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Been
Yes,
documenting this work for a long time now.
All day, every
we got
day.
Lisander Bryant in the cut. We here at Archive South Studios, the
Yes, sir.
legendary
Uh-huh.
Archive South Studios.
Greatest fist.
Okay?
Yes,
we got
sir.
Eugene in here,
Uh-huh.
Nashville's most respected, most professional
Uh-huh.
production leader
Yeah.
that we could ever find
Yes,
on
sir.
this side of the Mason-Dixon
And then who we
line.
got? And then
And
who
we
got?
got one of the members in here. Y'all clap it up for one of the members.
Yeah.
We got Paige in here behind the
Yeah,
camera.
yes, sir.
It's going to be a
Full
great
production.
episode today.
Full production.
How y'all feeling?
I feel
I
good.
feel good. I feel good. Surrounded by really good energy. I'm feeling good today. How you feel?
I feel like I gave a lot of energy in the opening.
You
and I feel
did.
you just brought it all the way.
What?
Just like nose
Are you
dive.
serious?
It was
How did
just-
you want me
You
to be
know how you
hyped?
see somebody you ain't seen in a long time and you're real
Oh,
excited to see them?
this
And
is
they be
the
like,
worst.
hey.
Ah,
Give me one of
that's-
these.
They give you the low
Hey.
the low wave.
The low head is crazy.
Okay.
The low head.
Jamel, how you feeling today?
Man, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
Respectful. You know what I'm saying? High on the hog.
Yeah.
As my folks would say. Top of the morning, rooster calling. I woke the rooster up this morning.
That's
how
you
I'm
was up
feeling.
early?
Oh, yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
that's good. Well, that's good. I'm happy to be here. I have a lot to discuss. And I guess a lot to learn, too. Let's get it.
This is Get the Goods podcast where you come get culture, news, organizing
Yes,
in the
sir.
South,
Little bit of
and
everything.
also some fun, man. We have a good time up here.
Yeah.
We always start with the news.
Yeah, let's talk about
Jamel,
it.
you want to open us up?
Yeah, man. So recently, Justin Pearson did a environmental justice town hall,
Okay.
right? Because XAI put up 35 methane towers
Whoa.
in Memphis without any state approval, without any like local government approval, all that. So it's been a lot of organizing in Memphis. And if you remember, I think episode 30, we kind of talked about this. So since 30, all of this stuff has been happening in Memphis as far as that. So it's like environmental.
What has the people's reaction been?
Man, they don't want. So Memphis has a tradition of stopping like these type of things from
That's
happening,
true.
right? So
Stop
and
the aquifer.
They stopped the highway.
How you say it?
they stopped the highway.
Yeah, something else.
I can't remember what the other thing they stopped. But when they was
Aquifer?
running, so when
Yeah,
they was
thank
running,
you.
when they
I
was
can't- Thank you.
when urban renewal was happening, and they was running the interstate through North Nashville, in Memphis they was able to stop it. So they stopped things
Oh,
like
they
that.
did?
So, yeah, yeah. They don't have a
That's good history.
yeah,
Actually, now I think about it, I don't see it there. Yep.
yeah.
That's good
So-
work.
That's yeah. So that's I don't know. So Memphis been doing that. Yeah, you know. So it's been a lot of organizers on the ground. Folks been like holding their elected officials accountable
They
and
did.
things like this. It's a lot of nuance.
They did stop the state from taking over the school district, too.
They did, but it's a lot of nuance in Memphis because most of the elected officials are black. So it has if you don't have a class analysis, then it's gonna be hard to understand what's actually going on.
That is actually really real that you said.
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Yeah. My news, there's a lot going on in the news. Some positive news. People came together across the state and really across the country and were able to, for now, save education for all in Tennessee. So there was a
That's big.
legislation, right, that was being proposed and pushed that would really take away education from quite a few students
Yeah.
in Tennessee based on their documentation status. And so folks came together and were able to stop it. And so shout out to everybody who was a part of that organizing effort. And so that's a huge
Big
win.
win.
Anybody you want to shout out that was particularly a part of that effort?
Yeah, it was a lot of people. I mean, literally, it was people from all across the country.
Well, I want to give a shout out to our youth assembly members.
Thank
who,
you.
If you go on our page, talk about how the bill would not be good. We have voices of young people that we uplifted in platforms.
Yeah, that's true. They talked about, the right to education and why they know and believe that every student should have access to education.
If I can also say this too, I think when these things come about, we have to talk to our folks, right? Because I had a conversation with a person who was looking at it on the outskirts and was like, well, aren't they taking money from our other students? And I'm like,
What?
no,
No.
we can't have a scarcity mindset when it comes to entering into
You know
these
who's
things.
taking money from our students?
Who?
The
Tell 'em.
voucher bill.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
literally
Yeah, yeah.
taking money
Right, from public schools,
from
yes, sir.
traditional public
Yeah.
schools and putting it into private institutions that most of our students won't even have access to.
And labeling it
Who
parent and
said
school
that?
choice.
Okay.
Come on, no.
I'm soft.
It's no. It's deserving of the fire.
Yeah, no, for real.
Yeah.
And I think like what I actually told this person is like that's why it's very important for us to educate ourselves on actually what's going
Well,
on.
what was
You
they
can't
like
bounce in and out.
understanding, like their reasoning? Were they like, I just want to understand their frame of mind?
I think it's a propensity to just read headlines. So they ain't really even diving deeper into
So
what's
was
going
they
on.
reading right-wing news headlines? Like, what was they reading?
I just want to let you know our news is right wing news. But yeah.
No, but I mean, like,
I don't know.
because some news is saying, some news stations do talk about that differently.
Right. I don't know, but I do know is oftentimes with these things, there's a myth that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's always a myth that they don't have enough
So
to
you
go
said
around.
they was an outsider looking in. What you mean? They wasn't in Tennessee?
No, I mean they were. When I say they was an outsider looking in, I'm talking about their engagement in traditional political
Yeah.
systems and bills. They have
Yeah.
no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. Which my mom
So
would
they
say.
thought students was stealing money from other kids.
Not stealing. They're saying.
I understand what they were
Yeah.
saying, but I'm just not.
Filling in the gap.
It's not adding up.
So oftentimes, like people will try
It's
to.
because it doesn't add up.
Yeah, it doesn't, and it's weird. Math ain't mathing, but you
Yeah.
also know, like whenever we engage with stakeholders or targets of campaigns, usually they're going to say what that they already doing it, and it ain't no need of doing it again, and you're going to take away from something else, right? They oftentimes people, whether they're in elected office or traditional
So this
stakeholders.
is an elected official, you said?
No,
Oh, because
Erica.
now you, okay.
What's
No.
Hold on. Can I follow?
This was an everyday person.
But then you was talking about elected officials.
So what I'm talking about is the common narrative that manipulates people into believing that it's not enough going around.
Oh, that's not. Oh, okay.
You know
People
what I'm saying?
believe that it's not enough resources and money.
Right. And so
Okay.
they'll support a bill taking resources from people because they'll feel like
They
there's
believe it's not
going on.
enough money when actually this, in the state of Tennessee, they passed more legislation that would put more money into incarceration and police. And so
Right.
most of our money, a lot of our tax money is going towards war, criminalization, and policing.
Right.
Not towards the people you think it's going to.
Right. So our public schools are suffering from a lack of investment because they don't invest in it, not because there's no money.
Right. Yeah. That's so true. Thank you.
And we
That's
just
why I was
have
like, let's tease
Yeah,
it
that's
out.
fine. Because I wanted to make sure we had that conversation here because people probably watching this
Nah,
are like
that's fair.
thinking like, yeah, like they should take money away from those folks because and it's like, no.
Those folks are our folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I've got some news.
Okay.
Come on.
I've got some
Well, yeah, I got some news too to go with that.
some
but-
joyous and exciting news.
Oh yeah, great.
It's official, y'all.
Yeah.
We have seen the hiring of the inaugural, the
Yes, sir.
first.
Yes.
The first director of
Yeah.
Office of Youth Safety, the Office of Youth Safety, which is the first of its kind in the country,
In the country.
that is built to prevent youth-based gun violence,
Yep.
that does not involve the police or the courts.
Yes, sir.
And the director is, drum roll,
Woo.
I don't think it's going to show on the mic, but we might add it in the post, do a little magic.
should.
Dr. Phyllis Hildreth, y'all, make some noise.
Highly
So,
decorated.
so, man, it was really, really great to see that come through. Y'all know we've been on this campaign for quite some time.
We have been.
We have been pushing, and we talk a lot about we're organizing and when we're doing campaigns, and Jamel does a great job of teaching this, is that monitoring and implementation of the win.
Got to.
You get the win, you had to see it through all the way across the finish line.
the way.
And, get in the office, budget allotment is one thing, but beginning to hire the people that will run the office is another thing completely. So getting the director in there is a really, really exciting thing. Dr. Phyllis Hildreth is incredibly qualified. And a great, a really, really great opportunity for the varsity spending plan to continue to grow and thrive. So I'm excited about that, John.
I'm so excited. It's just really a collaborative effort, a really huge display and practice of co-governance. It shows that community organizing and co-governance do get us the goods, right? And so I'm proud of those. I'm proud of the young people, their families, all of our members who came together in that effort. And I think, can I add on to that?
Yeah, go for it.
I want just another piece of news that's connected to that is that, one, we know that the Office of Youth Safety is a vision of young people to address the school to prison pipeline,
Right.
criminalization of young people, and then also to really address the root cause of gun violence and address that through like community-driven forms of safety.
Right.
And so what's interesting is that, you know, this week or last week, the federal administration, signed executive orders really trying to undermine efforts on the federal level to address like disparities that were happening when it came to young people being expelled and suspended from school. And so recognizing that black students were more often disproportionately suspended from school. So like there were efforts on the federal level to try to address that by like, you know, also ensuring that schools systems were keeping data and things like that, you know, your funding could be challenged if they found that you were disproportionately expelling, suspending, punishing students based on their race and other vulnerable classes. And so now the Trump administration is like seeking to undermine that, which is really extremely harmful. And I'm proud of the work of our young people who are already really clear that our work is to end the school to prison pipeline. And because the Office of Youth Safety, the Varsity Spending Plan, seeks to address the root causes, can actually prevent that from being implemented or prevent some of the harm that this administration seeks to enact on our young people.
And also returning it and also using the cover of states' rights as
that's what they've been doing.
So even in the dynamics of what's Erica talking about in this federal deregulation, is like they try to use the cover of returning power back to the states, which was very interesting because remember we talked about this in the past. Our folks really saw the federal government as a way to ensure that we was experiencing the rights that we deserve.
Yeah, the Civil Rights Act, all of that. Yeah.
So, and I want to get into that more a little bit later.
Yeah.
But is that y'all got any more news?
I had one piece of news. I was a part of a really interesting conversation. The folks over at the Tennessee Department of Transportation, TDOT, came and did a presentation that I saw about choice lanes, which is very interesting. So choice lanes are essentially what they call toll lanes, but they call them choice lanes here, quote unquote choice lanes.
Because you can choose to pay the toll.
What was really crazy about the choice lanes, though, I didn't know this because, I mean, Tennessee, we don't have toll lanes. We don't have that thing, right?
Even though, was we getting a text about it?
What you mean?
When we getting texts?
Everybody getting the spam. You talking about the scam text?
I was like, dang, what tickets do I owe?
Oh, you got the ticket. I did too.
They got your account for sure. They got your whole iCloud.
But what they were saying is along 24, which runs north to south, right? They was gonna expand 24 by 2 lanes on both sides, but they were gonna be choice lanes. The wild thing is that the choice lanes are gonna have surge pricing. So
they had that in New York.
Yeah. And so what was interesting, which they hadn't thought out, also it's going to be privately funded.
This is Tennessee.
This is Tennessee.
The state.
Yep, TDOT.
How is it? How is TDOT? Wait, continue.
Yeah, so it was this really crazy thing, and I'm not going to nerd out right here too long. But what was crazy is I didn't know what was a wild thing is TDOT is they called it like a $0 department. In other words, is they use public-private partnership to do investment into our roads. So the toll lanes is created by a conglomerate of corporations, not by TDOT.
Oh, so the money from the
so
toll
the money
lanes
don't go to the state.
Back to the,
So the money for the toll lanes for the first couple of years is going to go back to the conglomerate of folks that are building the toll lanes.
So they're going to get their money back first and probably a little
more. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But when does the state start to get money from?
They couldn't answer that question.
Oh, wow.
And the second question they couldn't answer is while we're in the midst of an expansion of surveillance across Tennessee, police surveillance, whether we're talking about fuses or license plate readers, they also could not say the interaction between these policing digital surveillance techniques that they have and the toll lanes. So she was talking about how the charges is going to be automated by license plate readers. So one of the pastors asked a question, so how those license plate readers are going to react with local metropolitan police, right? Because they were saying that if you keep violating the license plate reader, right, which they're going to read your license, charge you automatically, but if you keep violating that, they say they're going to send you a ticket home. And one of the pastors was like, so is MNPD going to show up at my house? And they could not. Did
the current state budget, when is it supposed to be passed?
It's already passed. That's the crazy
So
part.
when are they building it?
So they start building in 2027. They don't end until 2033.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
So it was interesting. They were talking about building new bridges. They were talking about building a whole new infrastructure.
I'm curious
But
about how
only
this.
paid, though. Only paid.
I'm curious about how this interfaces with the transportation
Right.
upgrades that Freddie O'Connell is doing.
Yeah. It was a lot. And I just didn't know that all of this was going to open up so many other questions, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's weird to have a private corporation actually do that. This private corporation is actually going to build roads. It's not going to be T-Dot. It's going to be a private conglomerate of organizations that she couldn't even name. I was like, yo, this is
wild.
This is very wild.
It's got a little smell on it.
Yeah.
We will stay tuned.
But then also the last part that was wild is like, for instance, Flock is the group that supplies the license plate readers. When I looked into who is supplying the license plate readers for the road expansion, the choice lanes, it was 4 companies that was submitting what they call that was submitting for the government contract.
Yeah.
Flock and Motorola Solutions were both on there, and they both have contracts with Metro Nashville Police Department. So I'm just like, yo, this is a lot of, and we talking about multi-million-dollar contracts over a 50-year term.
Ooh,
Yeah,
50
so
years.
I'm like, oh, they playing.
Oh, they got 50 years
This
playing
big
this.
money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
Yeah, no, we got to stay tuned for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we gotta
We'll hear
keep.
more
Okay,
about
we're
it.
gonna keep.
Yeah.
We're
Sorry
gonna
about that.
continue to bring
No, that was
updates.
good news.
No,
Thank
that
you
was
for
that
sharing.
was interesting.
Yeah, because instead of being like, let's expand public transportation,
Right.
they like, let's just keep having more cars.
And we know that.
And make a way for more cars to be on the
Exactly. And we know that building more lanes
It doesn't solve
Yeah.
traffic.
it increases
road.
traffic.
We need more public transportation,
So
which is what Nashville voted on.
some other folks from Rafa was there, Rafa Institute, and they was like, so this is just like for rich people. So this is a rich people in the state.
Yeah, because you got to pay for it. Yeah.
And you got to pay surge pricing.
Yeah, because it's my understanding that they tried the surge pricing thing in New York and they ended it because people couldn't afford to go to work and stuff like that. Like, because they did it, like, I think they did it on I can't remember. I don't want to say it wrong, but they did it and it was so egregious that it was for rich people.
Yeah, and the other thing is, when I researched it, what I found was when people want to build transportation, when municipalities want to build transportation for working class folks, they build rail, they build more bus lines, and they build subways. When they want to build it for rich people, they build choice lanes.
That's wild.
That are monthly subscriptions. So I was just like, wow, this is getting. I didn't know traffic was gonna go that crazy.
Yeah.
But I just opened up a rabbit hole.
They need the choice lanes. They
Who is
need
they?
more
Who is they?
cars.
Who is they?
This whatever this corporate group is,
Yeah.
because they also have us paying for parking everywhere
Exactly.
in Nashville. There's nowhere to park for free.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people in this company are
Plug it all
car
in.
manufacturers.
Yes, sir. I wouldn't be surprised they sell tires.
Yeah. There's probably some gas companies. Yeah.
All of that.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's the news for this go around. It's been a lot going on.
So
And we're in budget season.
What's been going on with y'all? How y'all been feeling, man? How your lives been going?
how yours been going?
Mine is pretty good. Busy, very busy. Oh, I just put a song out.
Oh, fire.
Hype about that.
Fire.
Got some really cool visuals to go along with it, and just been really inspired too by which we could talk about later, but Sinners, Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, that whole thing been really inspired by the way black people are represented in the South in the arts. So just kind of been reading and looking at different stuff about that.
You went to Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah, I did go to Puerto Rico. Jordan in the room. We went to Puerto Rico with Jordan.
Rico.
The guys was out eating fish with the face on it. You know what I'm saying?
Look,
So
and y'all jumped off a cliff.
we jumped off a cliff.
That's wild.
Jordan got scared up there.
I ain't gonna talk about you.
I was scared too.
I said, Mike, I did not say y'all could jump off a cliff.
Look at her.
Out there risking your life. No, that was fun. I ain't never did that. We hiked through the El Yunque rainforest.
Oh, wow.
It was
Oh,
raining the
that's
whole
cool.
time.
Oh, wow.
I had on some fire sneakers that survived.
Why
You know what I'm
did
saying?
Okay. They stood the
I don't
test.
think I I ain't never did it before, so I really didn't really.
You thought it was gonna be like.
I thought it was gonna be a cute
yeah.
hike. You know what I'm saying? You gotta read the fine print. But it was fire. We hiking through this rainforest.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about some of the areas is maybe 8 inches wide. You scooting through mud, you walking through a river. Yeah. You got a life jacket on, but we got to the end and it's like this big, had to be at least 30 feet high, 30-foot cliff, something like that.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how tall it is because you just kind of been walking through until you step and look over the edge of it. And they're like, all right. It was like, hey, look, it can be dangerous up here. We're not playing around when you get to the edge of this cliff.
Yeah,
When you get up there, don't waste no time, just jump. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm just little kids jumping. You know what I'm saying? It's families jumping. I'm like, all right, straight. You get up there and say, oh, I'm scared. Oh, my God, I was scared. I was like, I'm not going to die. That's what I kept telling myself. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die. I just jumped.
I'm going to live.
Bro, I hit that water so hard. I got scared. I threw my arms out, smacked the water. Arm was red.
Did they tell you how to jump? Did they tell you?
No, they didn't tell us how to jump.
You're supposed to get. You're supposed to
Yeah, that's what I thought. You supposed to.
Yeah.
How long was the trail? Like, how many? Was it like minutes or hours?
It was, how long was it, Jordan?
Oh, that's a long
No,
time.
that's cap. We was out there for like 4 hours.
Okay.
We wasn't in water.
They
Yeah.
had food.
No.
Man, I would have been hungry.
Oh, Lord, I would have heard
Yeah.
arguing the whole time over food.
So, yeah, it was
Did y'all see
fun,
snakes
though.
and lizards?
Nah, they didn't
no.
really have animals out there. The
good.
tour guide was like, you're not going to see nothing crazy out here. You might see some frogs, but that's about it.
So how did you get over the fear of not jumping?
I just told myself I wasn't going to die.
Oh yeah, see
That's all I had. I
Focus
didn't have
on
nothing
life.
else. I was like, because I seen other people do it. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, that's good. Keep
Sermon
going.
coming.
Yeah, keep going.
That's it.
Keep
I
going.
seen those that came before me.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I knew that God is faithful.
Yeah.
Okay? He will keep you and
That's
watch
real.
over you.
That's real.
So I just jumped, man.
That's a
It was a
word.
great experience. Some people chose not to jump. We ain't gonna name no names. Some people in our group chose not to jump.
That's tough right there.
Everybody ain't gonna go.
That's the after I see a kid do it, I gotta do
Everybody
it.
doing it. Nah, for real.
I'm like, I saw a child do this. I'm definitely doing this.
And see, that's the other thing too. Because when we was growing up, they used to always say, if all your
Nah,
friends
that's
jumped
real.
off a cliff,
You did it.
yes, I'ma do it.
I'm doing
I'ma
it
do
too.
it. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Nah, that's real. That sound like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time.
For me, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. So for me, like I've been, Easter, Resurrection Sunday.
He got up.
Yes, sir. With all what in his hand?
We having church
Yes,
already.
sir. So I mean, this season, I'm not even gonna lie. Like this season, like since the last time we did the podcast, that's really what like my life has been. You know what I'm saying? Because when we talk about, it's a lot of folks I think that are like have lost loved ones. You know what I'm saying? And you know, even in the midst of this, like since the last time we did a podcast, I lost another student of gun violence. And with that being said, you know, I think our community is in a collective grief. You know what I'm saying? It's a very interesting thing with our folks, with black folks in particular. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate this, and I never want to lose this. But we have a sensitivity to each other that like somebody. And I think we've experienced this with the George Floyd uprisings, with the Breonna Taylor, with whenever we experience something like a collective loss, even if you're not attached to it as black people, we feel it. Some people shove it down, some people try to ignore it like it ain't there.
Yeah.
But like we collectively feel it. And so I think like at this moment we are collectively are feeling I think we've been collectively under transformation. So I think we are collectively feeling the weight of grief, but also resurrection. You know what I'm saying? Because we're in the midst of a transition. Everything is transitioning around us. Politics is transitioning, infrastructure is transitioning, government is transitioning, people are transitioning. Everything is in a transition, right? And I think like for me in my life, what I've been really working through is the tools that I have on thinking as transition, as resurrection. And we're going to talk about sinners later. But I think Ryan Coogler does this thing in every single one of his movies where he talks about transition in a very specific way. Even Black Panther, he talked about transition in a very specific way.
Fruitvale Station, yeah.
Fruitvale Station, right? And I think like what I've been just holding is like even when we transition, right, and we transition into something new, whether it's physically, spiritually, mentally, right, there is a grief that comes with that because you are something brand new.
Yeah, that's real.
Right? So you have to grieve what you have transitioned from, which can be also a beautiful process that has to happen. So I just been in that space, you know what I'm saying, thinking through that.
I think Corinne Bailey Ray has a song about, I think it was her husband that passed. I think it's called, I call it Morning. I like to call it Morning. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, it kind of talks about the same thing.
Cleo Soul has a really beautiful song called There Will Be No Crying. She has a really beautiful song, There Will Be No Crying. And it's all about transformation and the beauty that comes with it, but also the sorrow and the sadness and the joy and how complicated all those emotions can be. And in that song, she's like, and there will be no crying. Like, we're going to have a good time through this. So
What have you been learning?
From about myself?
Yeah.
Just how, like, that it's a process, right? And, like, and we talk about this, revolution in progress, right? It's a progression to it. Right, even when we talk about we said this in the mass meeting. We talked about how when the Black Panther Party did the free breakfast program, it was free breakfast in service of pending revolution, right? So all of it is in progress, is in process, and I'm just thinking through, like, as a community, how do we collectively go through that process while holding our own process? Because this is the other thing that came about. We know capitalism wants us to be individuals.
Yeah.
And we live at the height of individuality, right? So the thing that helps us in the process is collective, community. We got to share with each other.
Yeah.
We got to know that we're going through that, right? And so that we can actually hold our hands and wrap our hands around each other. So that's really what I've been thinking through.
Yeah.
I know that was a lot, but it's been a
no,
lot.
that's real.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that probably a lot of people can resonate with that, like that transitional, transformational period that requires both kind of like a dying, a grieving, and then a rebirth and a resurrecting period. That is like an internal and community process.
One thing that I've learned, and this came from Metropolitan, I know we ain't getting church too fast, but some people may never know God, but they're going to know you, right? Some people may never experience what we experience, but your life has to be one that people can see, right? Trey told me, one of our member leaders, Trey, he was like, no, people need to see you handle situations, so when they handle it, they got something to reference.
That's helpful.
Because out of the example, people can grow. Trey said that.
Yeah,
Those that came before you.
Exactly.
No, I
Reach
appreciate
on back.
that for real. Yeah, thank you for putting words to like what is a moment that I think many of us are like engaged in or sharing together.
For sure. So what you been holding? What you been thugging through?
Yeah, I mean, I think similarly, I've been reflecting on where I was this time last year, and like grateful for where I am now. Yeah, like a lot of like growth, a lot of like time just like mending and healing and like thinking through things. I don't know, maybe it's something about like being 35 and like that 30, like that just mid 30s where I'm like, oh, I'm really becoming me, but a part of becoming me has kind of been like that part where I'm like, what are the things that I want to keep and what are the things that I'm like,
refinement.
Maybe that was good for a moment, but maybe that's not how I want to be now.
That's good.
And so I'm like, and that's like maybe behaviors or like how I move throughout the world. And so just a lot of appreciation, gratitude for like my own process. But the other exciting thing, I think just being in that process has been really, really helpful, and I felt a lot of growth.
When you talk about that refinement process, how much do you think your work in community informs that process? Like your community-based work, like what we do at the Southern Movement Committee, how much do you think like that intersects with the process?
I think I think there's quite a bit of it that, you know, the working community has been a part of, because what's really interesting, and I think this could be a conversation for another podcast, but, you know, we work together and we're also friends.
Right.
Which is, I think can be complex,
it
right?
It can be. It's something we're not taught to do.
And I think there are ways that I have been like, oh, I felt triggered by them in some way. And it's like not yours to hold, but it's like for me to think through, okay, what is this bringing up for me? And how do I want to show up? Like, how do I get out of the cycle that I have been in before? And so I think that a part of like growing and healing has to be also new interactions and being able to practice and see what behaviors work better. And so I'm like, ooh, maybe in the past I would have been conflict avoidant. But now I get the opportunity because I feel safe with y'all, and I'm like, they not gonna leave me. And if they do, maybe I have the tools to be okay. But like, I can, voice a thing that maybe I would have not been comfortable to voice before. And so I think the community being a way to be able to both be in practice and observation and accountability has really, really been helpful for me, and like a healthy community where it's like we're not asking each other to be perfect, but we are asking each other to be in it together.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Mike, based on that. How do you think we create a culture as an organization that has that level of like dexterity, strength, resilience, right? Because that's a tough thing to do, what you just described.
Oh my God. Like the thing is like all of us long to belong and be connected, but it's such a risk.
Yeah, it is.
It's like you might leave me. Like I might extend myself and you might be like, nah, I ain't got you. And it's like, ooh. That hurt, and I'm triggered,
Right, but like you said, the dexterity is still showing up.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to pose it to Mike, because Mike is the arts and culture director. So I'm like, how do we create a culture of that? Because I think in that is how we can hold each other and build.
Yeah. I think it's a few things. One of them you mentioned, I think it's modeling. Right, I think people have to see that happen. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes if you don't have that tool, you really don't even know that it exists as an option until you see that tool exercised. Yeah. So I think modeling it is one thing. I think another thing too, though, is like it's largely communication, and I think it's communication out the gate. Like, I think we talk about this all the time, not being liberal. You know, talking like if I have an issue with you, I'm gonna go talk to you. Right. I may talk to somebody else and be like, hey, am I tripping? Before I go over here and kick the door down, am I tripping right now? No, I'm not. Okay, I'm gonna go talk to bro. But if it's anything other than that, like then to talk to someone else to get more information, get more clarity, then I think we're starting to gossip, we're starting to do things, we starting to play the telephone game, all of those type of things. So I think you just really want to initiate out the gate. This how I'm feeling, this what I think, this what I feel like I think I saw. What are we having the same experience or no? You know what I mean? I think doing that as early as humanly possible and setting a practice of that throughout the organization is really important.
I think one thing you used to say, and I know you got this from somewhere, that fits that, is claim no easy wins, claim no easy victory.
Tell no lies, claim no easy victory.
And we got to get in the space of telling no lies. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate Mike saying that, because I think we also have to build a chemistry where folks can be open to receiving that as not a
you really, and I appreciate the investment that the organization has made in like mental health and emotional support through like the men's circle and just making sure that wellness opportunities available, because it does, like, it sounds really great to say, but doing it is hard when when I say triggered, I mean like, oh, I'm reminded of the time I was abandoned as a child. Like I don't mean just triggered because people say it all the time, but like no, like I feel like I'm in that moment. But it takes the work to be able to work through that, to then
and
be
your
able
body
to show
can't
it better.
differentiate the time.
It's
just this is the same feeling I had when I was 8, and it's here now again, and I don't know what to do
I don't know what
about
to do.
that.
And now I'm like up here with it when actually it's maybe I should be right here.
Just to be clear though, we invested those things so that we can do the work from a place of healing, from a place of wholeness. So I think a lot of the times I don't know how to say this, and this was based on my conspiracy last time. I think sometimes the status quo or the people who actually gain something from us not doing work use that to be like, don't do no work. Just be in a mental health space. Don't do it to prepare to do anything else. Just do that all day instead of actually healing so that you can heal others. I think that's the part that we have to keep drumming up. And even in the men's circle, we try to make sure we tell folks that we are doing this so that when society is transformed, we don't walk into that space with a manhood that just recreates the same toxic white supremacist system that harms everyone else. That's why we do the men's circle. It's to decolonize the way we exist as men. So when the opportunity comes to build a new world, we don't create the exact same systems that harm everyone.
And as you're building the new world, you're not using the same tools and harmful like behaviors that we learned through like white supremacy
And to help unlock the imagination. I think
Exactly.
a big part
That's
of
good.
being able to create something new is having the mental space, clarity, time, energy to imagine it.
Right.
You know, if you can't do that, if you're so stuck on the fact that your car's broke down, it's going to be very difficult for you to have a conversation about the choice lanes that yields any fruitful results, you know? And we was talking about this, me and Erica was talking about this earlier in the office, about how in the organization it's good to understand the human component, right? Because I may get some news that I'm like, I'm hot about this at this point. I got some news this week that I was hot about. And I had nothing for it. Right? At this point in the conversation, I'm going to stay. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do in the course of this meeting. But I'm hot. My imagination is not on full throttle.
No.
But Erica's was.
So
we got to be able to have,
that's good,
again, members, organization, teams. And trust amongst each other to where if I ain't got it, you just sent me somewhere that I don't know, I need some time. Somebody else has to be able to come in and be like, well, I have the ability to imagine an idea. And came up with a phenomenal idea. You know? And also the other thing, too, the responsibility on the person who's having the emotional reaction is to not get in the way of the person who is not.
That's real.
Because things have to continue to move forward.
That's real. I was at thank you for saying that. I was at a panel discussion for this leadership group in Nashville, and they was asking me a question that kind of went to that realm. And I was like, yo, you have to be in an organization. We don't need single faith actors no more. We need organizations. Because when we're at the negotiating table, when we talk about, you can't send the hothead to the negotiation table.
Can't do it.
You can't. Everybody got their role to play. Now, the hothead might have a role somewhere, or the crash out. But the crash out can't be at the negotiation table, right? We have to be able to actually negotiate with clear minds and use strategy when it's time to use strategy. Right, and the reason why I'm saying that is because people have their roles to play, but they can, like Mike said, they can only be played in an organization. Because there might be times that, you know, hey, man, I need to go take a break real fast.
Yeah.
But the work got to keep going. And I catch up.
Well, don't stop. They keep going.
Like Yo Gotti said, you got to lead all the way to the end.
Okay. Shout out to Yo Gotti.
Speaking of Yo Gotti, that's what's up with history.
Yeah.
I can't.
I was trying to.
You did it.
I've been trying to build a bridge.
You did
All right,
it.
history. On this day of history, we got April 28th.
Yeah.
Bonus points if you land on the date, but we will accept anything in that general time frame.
Cool.
Who want to go first?
We're going in order, right? Mine is 2017.
Okay, go.
Yours is 2017. Oh, you talking about his date?
Yeah.
No. I need Jamel to go last.
Okay, so mine is 2017. And it's really exciting because we're back at that moment, of course. But in around April 26, 2017, the official Black Lives Matter Memphis chapter, we launched our Mama's Day bailout, our Free 'em All Mama's Day bailout,
Yes, sir.
which is something that happened across the country. And the National Bailout Collective organized it, but you know, with again organizations across the country who use Mother's Day as an opportunity to bail Black women, Black mamas, Black caregivers out of jail, out of pretrial detention, and welcome them home. One is an act of protest, a direct action to really show and highlight that people do not belong in prisons and in jail, right? And to show that, like, to humanize the people who were in jail, and so just showing that, like, these are our mamas, our caregivers, these are our people, and they deserve to be home for Mother's Day.
Yep.
And it was a part of a larger campaign to end money bail and pretrial detention. And so just really proud of that work. I was looking at the headline, like April 26th, and that we were actually having a concert to raise money for the Black Mama's Day bailout. But yeah, it happened, and it's happening again this year, but it's been happening since 2017 across the country. So I'm really, really proud of that work.
Wow.
No, that's fire.
Yeah.
And something, too, that reminded me of.
They're doing it again this year, so donate
Shout
to
out,
the official Black
hold
Lives
on,
Matter.
hold on. Shout out to Erica to being a founder.
Oh, word?
Yeah. I was a part of it.
And being
some
ahead.
slight.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And also, wasn't you at the forefront of the Black Mama's Day bailout idea?
Well, no, I was there when it happened. So it was January 2017, and Mary Hooks came up with the idea while she was with Southerners on the Ground, but it was Infra-BL
Movement Black Lives
had a meeting focused on ending money bail and came up with the idea, and so then folks ran with it. Arissa Hall out of New York ran with it, and so in Marbury, like folks got together from again across the country: Alabama, Atlanta, Memphis, New York, California, and did this really beautiful, amazing effort, and really, I think changed the game when it came to the conversation around ending money bill and pre-child attention.
Fire. And you were in the room.
That's fire. And when we was in Cuba, the interesting thing you was talking about with the Mama's Day bailout about people deserve to be home and
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
families. When we was in Cuba and they was talking to us about, their system, they say folks that, commit harm in the community, if they go do time, they come home every 2 weeks. It was like they come home, they be with their family every 2 weeks because it's more of a re-education program than it is incarceration for cheap or free labor. So that was just very interesting that they acknowledge the humanity of those people.
Yeah.
And I think that's something globally too. Like if you see, I don't know if y'all ever seen like those documentaries about jails in other countries and stuff, and they be looking like apartment complexes and they got stoves and microwaves. And I was like, wow, we really wilding. And I don't want to jump off the deep end. We should have an abolition episode. But the Angola prison rodeo is something else that comes to mind in this. But we can say that for another.
That's good. That's good.
I mean, the other thing just brings up for me what also is important to mention is that, the people who are held in pretrial detention because they can't afford some because they can't afford the bail. Yeah. And then one because the court has just mandated like you have to be in pretrial detention. But nobody should be in jail. I want to say that. And then the other piece of that is that people they're accused of an offense, right? It's not even that you've been found guilty. It's like you're just accused of an offense, and you're being held in pretrial detention. And so just also naming that. And I just want to name one thing that the second year we did it, I met a mama, like she was like, her baby was 2 months old and she was still feeding. And they had her in pretrial detention away from her baby. And she couldn't get out because she didn't have the money. And so we came and we was like, hey, we got the money, we're going to bail you out. She was like, what? We was both crying. Because I'm like, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, they keeping you from your baby that's 2 months old. And so because you've been charged with an offense, and then, what she was accused of was actually trying to get stuff for her baby. That's good. So I'm like, you penalizing her for also, being, for not having money. And then you also going to keep her in jail for not having money.
That's a good story. And I would love to have a podcast around those type of ideas because there's a lot of myths that are pervasive in our community about people that are experiencing that.
And so much of the campaign and our work, whether it's the varsity spending plan or the Mama's Day bailout, is also about narrative. It's about helping people understand what is the actual truth. Right. What is actually going on. Like what you said with the what was with the bill that would like really take away folks' access to education. Like a part of that has to be education because people really don't know, and we being lied to and not giving the full truth, and also we're not connecting the dots between our struggles and other people's struggles. So so much of our work has to be like narrative and has to be conversations and things like that.
My This Day in History, April 28th, 1973. Big Gip of Goody Mob is born.
Big Gip. Yes,
now,
sir.
I say this, this connects to a conversation we're going to have later. But he wasn't a superstar in, like, pop culture.
Nah, for real.
But Goody Mob is CeeLo's rap group.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Had to build a bridge.
Yeah, sorry.
Good job.
Boom. So you got Goody Mob, and what they did in that era of Atlanta, Outkast, Dungeon Family, all of that was happening. And they really created a voice for hip-hop in the South to become bigger than regional, right? They were a huge part of that. And, eventually, of course, CeeLo goes solo, goes to Gnarls Barkley later, whatever. But we got all of these Southern narratives that begin to get pushed through hip-hop, through the lens of hip-hop, which, according to Amiri Baraka, is all born out of the blues.
Come on.
But also, that Goody Mob made a way for a group called Nappy Roots.
Come on.
Nappy Roots is I can't say I'm like a historian in regards to Goody Mob's catalog. Nappy Roots had a song called Po Folks.
Yes, sir.
I remember that,
that ate Nashville up.
Nah, for real. Loved it. Nashville loved that song.
Are they out of Kentucky?
Where is
I
Nappy
feel like
Roots
it was
from?
Kentucky. That's what
Kentucky.
I thought. Yeah.
So, Nappy Roots, I was like, oh, it's interesting how hip hop in the East Coast, in the West Coast, was coming out with all of this music in the 90s that was like this rags to riches story, right?
Yeah.
But in the Deep South, you got people that's talking about being working class, not having money.
That's good. That's good.
Even Yo Gotti.
All
my
it's
life
a
been
whole
poor.
story.
Yeah.
They tell the whole story
Yeah.
of living in poverty.
Come on.
So it's like
That's
I
good.
think black folks in the South have a connection,
We do.
especially black folks whose families stay here.
Yes, sir.
Have a connection to the experience of working class people
Yeah.
that is unique to black folks across the country. Not to say that it doesn't exist in other places, but I think when it comes through in the art, black folks in the South don't be afraid to tell the truth about being poor. Or
No, for
trying to.
real.
We weren't big on like Rolexes and all of that. Cash Money and them came with that.
Yeah.
But even then, it was still white tees and beauty supply bandanas.
That's fair.
So it
That's a
wasn't,
good point.
you know what I mean? It was cars
That's real.
and jewelry.
But
Yeah.
what about Gucci Mane?
Big goo wop.
Have you never seen his T-shirts?
The
But I'm
black
saying
tees?
It's Gucci.
In the black tees?
Ain't he named after Gucci?
Black
I'm afraid
tees.
of Gucci Mane, so
Yeah.
I don't.
Black tees. It's the reason why the tees are black.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay. Slow
I
it
don't want to be
down.
on record saying anything negative about Guwap.
No.
I have nothing bad to say about Gucci
No
Mane.
problems with goo wop.
But no, that was just an interesting. It just reminded me of that like narrative, and with the movie centers and everything being on the forefront of like the timeline, I was like, dang, this actually feels a lot like Goody Mob and Po
Yeah.
Folks and early Outkast
That's good.
and like all of those things.
That's real. That's good. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, you got me thinking about so much. Just the iconography that come with being from the South,
Yeah.
right? And that's just so interesting. Now you caught me.
And the lack of shame, a big thing
Even
too.
J. Cole and Crit, like, yeah, both of them talk about
King
being
remembered in
for
time.
sure, Cole too.
Yeah.
But Crit has a connection to blues music being out of Mississippi. You know,
Yeah.
we're really the home Mississippi Delta
Yeah.
is the home of that whole blues sound.
Yeah.
That really resonates.
And it's interesting that y'all brought this up because all of that comes from a place of resistance and a resistance of control. Because even when I think about Crit, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got my first ticket for like sound because I was listening to my sub. And
Was
and
it
I had
216s?
no, I had
my
two,
sub.
I had
sub.
212s. You think about 215s,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
knocking on the
Look,
Man, hey, I mean, and that bass line was so loud, it was like, it would like vibrate my whole car. It would just hit in a way that was completely different. And I think about that vibrations that people often talk about in the South,
real.
right? And how that carries. And even thinking about Sinners, which I know we're gonna talk about later, in their musical scene. It's like when people are attuned, like Crit, like Goody Mob, like Nappy Roots.
okay, I need to get to your history because we need to get into this conversation. We need to get into that
Well,
conversation.
the reason why I want to talk about it is because in my history has to do around the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, civil rights. The reason why I wanted to bring it up is because the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee at one point in time, along with the traditional civil rights, decided to change into denim, right? Because they wanted to reflect the people who were being most harmed by structural racism, right? Which, you know, I wanted to bring that up. But in April, from April 15th to 17th, SNCC is founded from students assembling at Shaw University. That whole episode starts with Ella Baker and Martin Luther King sending letters throughout the South to churches because they understand that the young people that are doing the sit-ins go to those churches. And so by April 28th, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee is founded. And not only that, the students in Nashville have come back to start organizing. So around this time, we see the traditional civil rights movement at the time get a jolt of energy, right? Because these students have started to enter into the fray, right? And so all of that was just so interesting because these students come in unapologetically Southern.
Yeah.
They like, nah, we from
Yeah, they
our
do.
grandparents is from the South. They might not have been from the South, right? James Lawson, Diane Nash, those students, they were from northern areas, but their grandparents were from here. So they found an ancestral calling to actually do work down here. They look like it, they feel like it, they sound like it, and they are unwilling to be controlled. And so, like, I really appreciate that conversation that y'all just had because even the movie Sinners is like,
Let's get into the movie
But I
sentence,
think
bro.
it's important.
Lee might want to exit the room.
When you get in the sentence, because when the students come back from Shaw University, what happens in Nashville?
So as soon as the students come back from Shaw University in Nashville, Z. Alexander Lumby's home is bombed as soon as they get back.
And he's the attorney.
And he's the attorney that represented the students from the first sit-ins. And also, he's also the attorney that was thoroughly involved in the NAACP's legal action around segregation in the first place. And so what's interesting is he's one of the people that told the students not to go do it, right? But he ends up representing the students. So they end up bombing his home.
The white supremacists bomb his home.
White supremacists in Nashville and those who wanted segregation end up bombing his home. Then those students that are coming back from Shaw, 200 students, right? They got folks from Memphis. They got folks from Nashville.
From almost every HBCU in Tennessee.
And high school students. They got high school students from Howard School in Chattanooga, which was the first group of people that police used fire hoses on, right? The earliest use of that was against Chattanooga students, right? They got all those students, and then they decide to do a march on downtown. And so they use all of that energy that they got in Shaw University, and they mobilized 5,000 folks from Cameron High School, from Pearl High School, from all of our HBCUs and Vanderbilt Divinity to march downtown. And they end up surrounding the mayor, Ben West at the time, and was like, yo, do you rock with segregation? Here's the mic. You gonna say yes or no? And if you look at those photos, he's surrounded. Like it ain't no police there. It's 5,000 black folks with a sprinkle of white folks in there, surrounding the mayor like, hold on, do you rock with it or not? And he say, I morally cannot rock with segregation.
Whoa.
And literally, they started desegregating everything. So when April 28th rolls around, students are testing it. All right, we're going to go to movie theaters now. We're going to go everywhere. We're just going to flood everywhere with students and see if they're going to let us rock or not.
Yeah.
That's wild. So
Thank you for sharing that story.
No
it's
problem.
really important Nashville history too.
That's extremely important. I'm going to push us along a little bit.
Yeah, come with it.
One of us here, unfortunately, has not done their homework.
Oh, that's it. Oh, you need a spoiler alert, don't you?
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We're about to talk about the
skip
movie
a little bit
Sinners.
ahead. We about to go
If you
into
want to, honestly, this is pretty much the rest of the episode. So
Oh,
thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
So, look, the movie Sinners comes out, last week?
Yeah.
Wow. What'd you think about it, Erica?
Well, this is what I want to say. So
Come on.
I'm the type of person that I'm okay with spoilers because I do like to know how things end and wrap up. So I have been on Instagram and Threads looking at people's analysis.
Other
of
folks'
the movie.
analysis.
Okay,
But
this
you
is
haven't
great.
seen it
So
yourself.
this is my question for you.
Yeah.
Based on what you have seen secondhand,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
what do you think this? Give me a summary of the movie based on what you think it is.
Yeah, I think the movie is about. It is a look into what is the Black history culture of Black people in the U.S. South, particularly Mississippi.
Yeah.
And then also it's like a look into white supremacy and the role it plays in attempting to extract our joy in our lives. And then how maybe people who are a bit selfish put our life on the line and cause us to lose our lives. So yeah, that's what I think. And then I think there's what I have heard and what I have felt and sensed is that woven into that is this really beautiful display of how we recognize and honor and are guided and protected by in many ways our ancestors, and the role of music, and then also Black love. I also saw that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So are we just hopping in?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I think for me, whenever we see images of the Old South and they're presented in a very cinematic and cool way, it automatically makes Black folks less anti-Black.
Yes.
I think when we see our great grandparents in them cotton fields not being cool, I mean, of course being poor, but being cool to some cool music, I think our identity, our class as descendants of working class, poor, becomes less onus on us. We blame ourselves less. The other thing,
our dignity increases and our shame decreases.
That's good.
and our acceptance of being Southern happens too, immediately. right? Which gives us a little bit more ground to work with when we talk about building black political power and working as an organization. The other thing that I found strikingly loving about the movie is one of the first stories. So one of the women that raised me, her name is Auntie Yvonne. It was my Auntie Yvonne. I got a name tattooed on me. And one of the first stories that Yvonne told me is how her mother went from War Chase, Tennessee, moved from War Chase, Tennessee to Chicago, and opened up a bed and breakfast in Chicago. And how every so often, my mom, my dad, my Auntie Yvonne, and her little brother would take a train to that place, do all this shopping, and then come back with bags on the train and be fresh. You know what I'm saying? And when I saw the Smokestack Twins, that's immediately what I thought about.
Yeah.
Because one thing my Auntie Yvonne would say is they were just as racist up there as they was down here.
And in the movie,
Yeah.
one of the twins lines, there's the Smokestack Twins, it's Smoke and Stack. Michael B. Jordan plays both these characters, and they have a younger cousin named Preacher Boy. Preacher Boy is a blues musician, but his daddy a preacher. So they come pick him up, they daddy stressing, because they're like, okay, your street nigga cousins is picking you up in a brand new fast car from Chicago.
Yeah.
So
No, they up to no good.
yeah, no, they up to no good. I mean, they got gold teeth in,
jewelry.
tailored suits, clean.
Going crazy.
Clean. Preacher Boy like, yo, I'm out, Pops. You gonna have to hold that.
After doing his work, though.
They get in there and he's like, man, I heard y'all went up to Chicago, man.
Yeah.
Like, what's good? Is it everything we ever dreamed? He said, man, Chicago ain't nothing but a plantation with big buildings instead of cotton fields.
Same stuff. They're like, they on the same stuff there.
He was like, it ain't. He's like, he said,
Clarksdale, Mississippi,
we
by the way.
figured we'd rather come down and deal with the devil we know. So
Word for
they
word.
up there working for, their story is they in there working for Al Capone in Chicago. So they doing gangster activity in Chicago. They come back down and they try to set up a juke joint. They set up the little juke joint, and that's when things start to take a turn.
Yeah.
But you see all of these dynamics of like people in the South and the way they engage with each other
Yeah.
throughout that process of
Yeah.
putting this juke joint up, because they do it in one day.
Yeah. One thing I really appreciate is the presentation of the healer, and I'm gonna call her the character a healer
Erica is
because
a big fan of this character.
because
No, in love with her since Lovecraft Country.
because folks be on this, I'm gonna call them woo woo. They be posers. And what was interesting about this healer
There's
is
truth in
that
that.
this was, I mean, and I had this conversation with Mike Ewan afterwards. It's like this healer was clearly a person of their community, right? Even in the scene, they are interacting with children. You know what I'm saying? And so I think, like, I really love that image of a black woman as a healer in a way that is planted in her community, and that is the rock of the community.
Yeah.
Not in a toxic way,
Yeah.
not in an exploitive way, but as a way that's, I'm the access to everyone getting this healing, so I am also healed myself.
And there's also, the healer also has this role of, hey, I don't want to call it investment. Maybe that's fair. Maybe there's spiritual investment. I don't know. But I'm carrying the traditions
Yes.
of our people.
That's good.
That's why
good.
I'm able to heal. It's not because I came up with something, because I went to therapy a couple
Exactly.
times. It's that these traditions made it from the continent
And have been passed down.
and have been passed down
to me.
And I have this information, so I'm sharing this information in the form of healing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people just be making stuff up.
Yes, sir.
Let it breathe.
Yes, sir. We're gonna put a pin
They said,
right there.
is she really a healer, or is she just light-skinned and unemployed? We don't know.
I don't know if that,
So the other thing,
It's not.
the
It's
other
funny.
thing that I did a deep dive on is, like there's a group of folks online that love talking about black musicians selling their soul to the devil. Like, there's a thing there, right? And I saw this interview of Ryan Coogler where he talks about this guitar player, because there's a scene in the movie where it's this idea that our folks can be so musically inclined that they can bring down everybody throughout time.
Yeah,
Which
because
is
when we
a
talk
really
about
beautiful scene.
when we talk about conjuring, we always talk about from the past.
Right.
This talks about conjuring from the past and the future.
It fold in time together.
Yeah.
my God.
So I
love
think the
that.
power, and this is where Jamel's hero comes into play, Amiri Baraka,
Yeah.
where I started his book Blues People,
Oh, that's good.
and he talks about us retaining our customs
Yeah.
and our beliefs
Yeah.
and our stories,
Yeah.
and our ability to communicate with each other through music.
Right.
Right. And the way that blues music sounds, the way a Southern black accent sounds, is the combination of a person from the continent trying to learn the English language, and that brings together
That's good.
the sound of the Southern accent. But what they'll have us believe is that a Southern accent sound like that because you're not smart enough to speak the King's English. You're not, you don't understand you don't pronounce words right. But really, I'm learning a second language,
Right.
and this is my accent mixed with me trying to talk in your language.
Right.
So that was really interesting to me. And what was also interesting is like the things that working class folks turned into instruments. The way oil drums had
good,
a
bro.
similar sound to the drums that they were used to in their part of the continent, and that's why that sound takes off. The way the banjo was originally an African stringed instrument, and that mixed with
That's
the
good.
dialect of African peoples in the South brings forth the blues. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
Like
right.
all of these things are reverberations and ripples that pass through time
Yeah.
and stay through time through
Yeah.
the art.
No, I rock with it. I rock with it totally. And then like what and this kind of went into my conspiracy theory mind, right? Because folks, when it comes to The Conjuring, right? If you just allow the pop, like what is considered to be white supremacy, teach you about that, they're gonna demonize it.
For sure.
They're gonna call it demon worship, devil. They're gonna just do all that stuff to it, right? And I think it's interesting. Like even when I saw an interview with the director where he talked about how he did research around the crossroads, right? Which is the crossroads is a place where spiritually you have access to both sides. To two sides of a dichotomy, right? The transition over and your life now. And what was interesting is he was talking about how Western society demonizes that crossroads, right? So when you talk about, it's a guitar player, Robert Johnson. He is the one that's being known as the person who met the devil at the crossroads, sold his soul to the devil, came back playing the guitar better.
Yeah.
But the deity, the African deity, is called like
I think it's Papa Legba.
yes,
Something like that.
right? Which is considered a access point, not the devil. It's a guardian of that crossroads. But when he came back, they said he sold. Western society will say he sold his soul to the devil, which I thought it was interesting how Ryan Coogler interprets like that folding of time and that ancestral conjuring of bringing all of that together, which I thought was really fun.
And
How
also,
did he show the future?
oh, you
in
want
The
to?
Conjuring?
So he conjured them.
Yeah.
But like,
So-
what
So
was the
imagine, so
symbol
the
then?
setting is 1932 Mississippi. So you got him
Clarksdale.
playing music, and he's summoning
Harmon Fayetteville
people
Hammond.
from the continent, right, in their traditional attire.
Yeah.
But then he's summoning
A DJ.
Parliament and the Funkadelic playing electric guitars,
A MC
DJs from
behind-
the 80s, Bloods from California,
What? Are you
girls. Yeah,
serious?
no, it's incredible. It's incredible.
That's
Like you're gonna
beautiful.
lose it when you see this scene.
a complete bending and
Yeah.
folding, and even the even people that are not black ancestors also come into the space.
Yep.
So there's Asian ancestors. that
Anybody
come in-
that's in that room, their
Their
ancestors come into the
yeah.
space.
Oh my goodness.
Because and it ends up being that was he was the real threat. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
why the devil is at the door in the first place, because they know Preacher Boy got the power to conjure.
My God.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I
I
think
didn't see that part in the threads.
Uh-huh.
That's good.
No, you know.
That's
Hey,
good.
because you didn't see the
Hey.
film.
No, but I'm saying that's
Hey.
good.
Hey,
I
also-
didn't see that Preacher Boy was the real threat. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
yeah.
So it's very interesting,
Did
and
everybody else know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's okay.
Yeah,
They
you have to
explicitly stated in the movie.
you have to watch the
Oh, they said in the movie.
you have to watch that. You have to watch the movie.
Oh
You have
my
to watch the
goodness.
movie.
Okay, yeah, I gotta watch it.
But no, it's amazing. It's so many other things we could talk about. We running
I
tight on
just gotta
time.
say something.
Go
before-
ahead.
Come on.
Because there's a thing. I'm like, what is our work or our posture to sit in a thing and to be able to conjure like for the future while also realizing that our work is to shape the future? Like there's two, you know what I mean? Like, go ahead.
I think one thing that stood out to me is that, so this is also some context here. It's belief, it's also work, and then it's also, it's this community piece where everything comes together and you get an opportunity to do that. But the twins gifted Preacher Boy his guitar. They said it belonged to Blues. No. They said it belonged to a legendary blues musician first.
Yep.
Yeah. At first, it was like, this is it wasn't
remember the
B.B.
name.
King,
They was
but
just
it
like,
was
it's a
somebody of
legendary
that
blues.
stature.
Yeah.
They was like, this is his guitar.
Yeah, and so he really loved it.
And so he was like, man, I can't get rid of this guitar.
Yeah,
This is his guitar. And he was like, Stack told you that's his guitar. That lying nigga. That's our daddy guitar.
Yeah.
But he believed
Yeah.
that there was something
In it.
handed down. He
Yeah.
believed there's something in it. So he put his skill and his craftsmanship
Right.
into being great at that.
Yeah, and,
right?
and even that is like why, like, I think his story and heirlooms, like things that are passed down through generations, are so important.
Yes.
Because he really held, and like, although he thought it was somebody else's, he really held that guitar.
He treated it with a certain reverence because of where it came from, and his respect for where it came from,
For sure.
which is very important. And I think that's the more important thing, because whatever we put our belief into, it will be, regardless of where it actually came from or whatever.
To think about what you're saying, I think our role is severalfold. One, I think remembrance has to be at the core of the things that we do. Because also it's set in a time when remembrance is like not a thing that is like shunned.
Yeah.
It's like there's several characters that's like, no, I remember this. It's like they have this collective community remembrance where they're not being distracted by things. And then two, I think like we have to think about what is our function and ritual to access those memories on an epigenetic level, and what is the mechanism that we need to use to intentionally understand our positioning in the future. I think we have to do that very intentionally because I mean, I don't know. Well, I done been in an old church, and they get the humming in that bad.
Oh
boy.
yeah, my God, my
You could
granddaddy
just-
used to be the one.
You
to do
could
that.
just feel ladies saying
Humming and rocking.
It's just a hum.
You don't know what? Yeah,
It's just a collective.
You know it. It's a language though that only we can understand.
Exactly.
And Mary Baraka talks about that in Blues People.
Right.
He was like, certain things did not make it across in translation because them folks didn't speak English. And anytime the slave masters or the overseers would begin to understand what they were saying, they would realize these folks are saying, we gonna be free soon. We gonna get out of here. Things like that. So they stopped letting them use words, but they may let them hum. They may let them whistle. They may let them.
But it's a message in there's a note and there's a particular vibration that holds a
that
particular
you understand.
message.
Yeah.
So he was saying a lot of the things that people just see as like maybe churchisms or whatever it may be, it was actually communications that came through field work.
And this is the last thing I'm gonna say. There's a point in the movie where they are talking about, and this moved me. They were talking about somebody experiencing a lynching in a car. They're headed somewhere. They're in a car, and they are talking about experiencing a lynching. And then there's an old man in the car who they're taking to sing the blues along with Preacher Boy. And once they get to a point in the story where they just really feeling it, he just start singing. Humming. Like he just starts moving. They're doing it as a process of collective coping, but also moving into the future of where they're going. And I think that's very interesting dynamic as we do our work. What is that? What is the sound of our work?
Yeah, that's good.
How do we signal to people ahead of us that we're coming? There's this old African tradition, and I was taught this when I was going to the village under a woman named Kisa. She would talk about how the djembe was a way to signal ahead that you were on your way. So if you were selling watermelons, there was a particular tune as people would walk. They could hear you coming.
Yeah.
So they could prepare, oh, we about to buy watermelons.
Like the ice cream truck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? But I think that's our role. What is our sound? What is
Yeah.
it? What do we send through our time to let them know that we're on our way?
And I think what is our sound to let our people know we're coming, particularly for our people.
Right.
And then I think the other thing is like, what is our posture? What is our ritual?
Yes, sir.
For us to be able
Prepare the
to go
table.
see into the future as we're shaping it.
Yes, sir.
Like I'm saying, we got to see like 8 years down the road. What is
50.
What is our? But I'm saying
Hundo.
first
Let's do it. Let's
8
do it short.
years,
3
right?
PMA.
Then 50. Then
1.
100.
Yeah.
Like, but
30
we gotta,
days.
we gotta see victory. Like we gotta see it.
It's mine.
So we can walk that road.
Yes,
You
sir.
know what I mean? And so we have to like determine. And a part of that ritual is the people moving assembly. Not to hold you. Like that's one of our rituals.
It's
And we do
indigenous.
that faithfully.
Yes,
sir.
Yeah. Which we have on Saturday.
Which will have happened when this is released.
Yeah.
But great seeing you there.
'Cause I see you there already.
Ooh,
See?
I see ya.
Now we connected.
Yeah, we there.
Now we
That's
connected.
the knowledge right there, boy.
That's
That's
it.
the knowledge.
Look, okay. Well, look, this has been a great episode, y'all. I
Yeah.
think we did it, y'all.
Good.
I think we did it. Thank y'all so
3
much for
fives.
being with us, man. Episode 35, Get
Yes,
the Goods
sir.
podcast. Questions, comments, things you want us to talk about, go to getthegoodspod@gmail.com.
Send us an
Send
email.
it there. And also follow us online, Southern Movement Co. on Instagram.
Yes, sir.
BLK NSH Assembly on Instagram.
Yes, sir.
And our YouTube channel. Please click the subscribe button on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
So you can tap in with us every time we drop an episode. We're doing pretty good about being on a 2-week rotation right
Yes,
now.
sir. Yes, sir.
And I'm
Yes,
seeing in the
sir.
future
Yes,
we're on
sir.
a weekly. We're on a weekly rotation. I'm
A hundo gonna be on a week.
I hear the djembe.
A hundo gonna be on a
hear
week.
I see. I feel it.
Yeah.
But look, as always, we know when we work together
We win
win
together.
and when we win together,
We
Transform the world. Yes, sir.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Good episode,
Good
y'all.
job.